Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, testing. Okay, I think y'all can hear me. All right, so I'm just going to review some of the basics that we covered in lab this week, or if you haven't been to lab or you couldn't go to lab this week, hopefully this kind of just gives you a good rundown of how to operate the Dynascape software. So if you go to any of the computers in the G or S section of the Open Access Lab, or if you make it back into this classroom, you're going to go to Dynascape Design. It should be this little yellow mountain type of logo. So double click on it to open. And I already had a project going on here, but we're going to open up a new drawing because yours will probably be blank in your screen. So you're going to go to File, New Drawing. And then this is very important. You have to pick the correct prototype because this is going to definitely rely on how good your quality is whenever we go and print your poster for your presentations. So you need it to be landscape 24 by 36, scale 1 inch equals 16 feet. Hit OK. And now there should be a blank screen with a nice little dotted line here that represents where I need to be working within. This is my workspace. This is my 24 by 36 inch piece of paper or poster that we're going to be printing on. Okay. Now we need to upload our PDF, our area of interest map, our base plans, so to speak. And so here we'll hit import vector PDF into the current drawing. Click. You'll hit these 3 little dots on the right-hand side next to import file. And then go ahead and find wherever you downloaded that PDF. I sent you that PDF via email last Monday or Tuesday. It should say Library LA Spring 25B. You'll hit OK, and it should look something like this. Okay, obviously this is not rotated, and so it looks a bit funky, but we're going to get to that. Let me show you some of the base components on how to operate Dynascape before we get to rotating. Okay, you're going to start with your draw and your edit tools. So these most likely will not be present whenever you first open up the screen. You need to click both draw and edit to have the tool you need in order to manipulate figures and objects within Dynascape. Okay, once those are up, let's look at a couple of the other things around here. We also have our magnifying tools. Our zoom tools are very important for manipulating our objects in terms of what we're seeing and how close we're seeing them. Because everything is to scale, we want to make sure that we're able to see all of our individual plants and hardscaping features at the scale that they're actually going to be installed in. So to zoom in, you'll hit the little magnifying glass with the plus logo. And you can just keep clicking until it zooms into the scale that you want it. You can zoom out just by clicking the magnifying glass with the little negative sign in it. You can go to your previous zoom lens if you hit the magnifying glass with the play button. So if you want to go back to a previous zoom screen, you can do that. If you want to just recenter yourself and recenter your screen, you can click the magnifying glass with the glasses attached to it, and that will recenter. Sometimes it'll look a little funky, but it's because Dynascape is just trying to catch up. I didn't actually copy anything here, it's just mad at me. So the way that I fix that personally is I just zoom out again and then recenter. And usually that second time around, it'll be okay. All right, this tab on the left includes your layers. Okay, each layer that you add can be attributed to a certain type of object. So I can have a layer for my driveway, my roadways. I can have one for my patios, one for fence. I can do one for all my trees, a separate one if I'm working on my annuals. I can open up that layer just so I work on my annuals. Now, you don't have to worry about this too much. I will say layering can be really handy if you want to go into design, because you can select one of these layers and mute the rest of the layers so that you're only seeing all of your annuals or all of your perennials or only your hardscaping features. And you can manipulate those within that layer. Now, each layer is also attributed to its own individual color and texture. And so if I were to go and make any kind of object under this annuals layer, notice how it's orange. Now, if I wanted to go to my pool layer, and I wanted to make another type of object, See how it's a slightly different shade? We'll go to plant beds. Now that's green. So each layer has its own texture, its own color. If I want to undo or go back, I can always just hit Control Z as many times as I want, or I can click this undo button here, this big blue arrow backwards, or I can redo things as well. Okay. Let's go ahead and start manipulating this image. So obviously we need to rotate it. It's not in the correct orientation. We're currently in portrait, we need to be landscape. First things first. This is the most important and what trips people up a lot, okay? This copy button here needs to be toggled off if you're manipulating an image in any way and you don't want to copy it. If I want to move it, if I want to rotate it, I need to not hit copy. I need to toggle copy off, okay? Or it's just going to create a copy and then rotate my copy. So now I'm going to go to my edit toolbar. I'm going to hit this rotate button here. If I just kind of hover over it for a second, it'll tell me exactly what that tool does. Rotates object around a location. We're going to click that. Okay. Then we're going to highlight our entire object, our whole map here, and you can do that just by left clicking, and this little box will appear, and you're just going to drag it over. I'm not holding anything down, I'm just moving my mouse, and I'm going to select it. So left click and then left click again to select all of my objects. Now I'm going to move my cursor to the center of the field here, and I'm going to right click, left click. Now I should be able to manipulate and rotate that image any orientation I want. I want to try and get it as close to 90 degrees as I can. And it might not be perfect. My hand's not very steady. We'll leave it like this. It usually takes a second, so let it lag for a moment. And we'll eventually place that new one down. Beautiful. Okay. Now I want to move this object because it's still not perfectly within my borders. Instead of this rotate tool, we're now going to move to this move or copy objects tool. Click that. Do the same thing. Highlight your area, right click, and then left click. And now I can manipulate that object again. Notice how if I hover over any particular location for a minute, I'll actually see the edges of my object. I'm going to put it right there. Again, it's not perfect. I can manipulate it a little bit more if I wanted, but I'm not really worried about that right now. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and zoom in just a tad. We're going to move in to this area here. I'm going to move out just a little. Okay. Let's get to the fun stuff. If you go over here on the very left-hand side of your panel, underneath Dynascape, you'll see figures. Okay. Under figures, you can hit this little drop-down menu and find any figure that you want to insert, hardscaping or plant material, under this tab. Okay, so my very first one here is shrubs. If I wanted to add a 3-foot shrub, then I would just left-hand click, and it's going to immediately attach to my cursor. Now, again, this is to scale, so it's kind of hard to see. So 3 feet on this map is going to look fairly tiny. So I might want to zoom in just a tad more. So here's my shrub. To place it, I'm going to left click once. Now I can rotate that figure however I want it oriented. If I left click again, I'm going to be able to manipulate the scale. Now, the easiest way for me to manipulate the scale is just to go over to this little scale tab here, excuse me. And if I want it 3 feet still, then I'm just going to put 1 because that is the ratio that I'm implementing the shrub at. If I want it to be a 6-foot shrub, well, then I'll put scale 2 because I'm wanting to make it 2 times as large as the original scale. I'll hit enter. And now it's about 2 times as large as it originally would have been. Okay. And I click left again, and now it is placed. Okay. I'll do the same thing for a different type of textured shrub. Left, then left again. Maybe I want to keep it scale it's at. Then I have to right click to get off of it. Okay. But usually if I am left clicking, I'm actively doing something. So it's going to manipulate some characteristic. It's going to manipulate the size, the orientation of some kind, if it's flat or 3D or 2D. And if I right click, that just means I want to move on to the next task. So it'll be permanently placed whenever you see that color from its associated layer show up. Okay, so I have a shrub there and a shrub there. Maybe I want a similar shrub over here. And again, we're still at our ×2 scale. So these are all 2 times as large as the original intended scale. Now I've got another one. I just want to right click there. Maybe I want to mess with something else. Let's go to our rocks. I got some rocks here. This 23-inch rock. Maybe I want a little rock garden over here with some different types of rocks. And if I want to rotate or move any of these individual objects, I can do that with this tool that we just used for our entire map, right? The same concept. And now let's see, what if I want a tree? So I'll put a big deciduous tree back here. And then maybe I want a hardscaping feature of some kind. Let's do a water feature. I want a fountain back here somewhere. Maybe just a little bubbling rock of some kind. We'll just put a little bubbling rock here behind our shrubs. Okay, so maybe this is my design. Okay. I did not think too much about basics and principles when I designed this just now, but you will have put a lot more thought into this. So now, take a minute, go ahead and explore some of those figures because there's many. Under people, you can also find statue-like figures if you wanted to go ahead and put your statues there, which I recommend. So people 6, there's some seated ones and there's some standing ones. So of course, Robert Frost is seated and we want his scale to be normal. Okay, so we're going to keep him 1 scale and he's seated somewhere over here. So we'll just kind of put him on the ledge there. It's going to let me orient him. I'm going to right click to move on. So there's Robert Frost. Now don't forget you want to put a plaque over there as well. And I think that's important. And uplighting in front of him should be situated right in front of that man. So keep those things in mind. Look at your checklists. If I want to stop adding more little men here, then I'll just right click. Oh, well, it's not working for me. I can always hit escape as well. Escape is my go-to. Just hit the escape key and he should come off of those crosshairs. Okay, let's talk about drawings. So if I want to make a path that curves a little bit or a planter bed of some kind that maybe has some curved lines, we can do that. We can also make straight lines. So let's start easy. Let's start with straight lines. You're going to go to your draw tab and hit the insert line, draw line tool. And then you're going to left click wherever you want that line to start and left click where you want it to end. Now it's still going to have this little web attached. So if you want to not make another line, because you could keep left clicking and make a polygon shape if you wanted, but I'm just going to let that go and hit my right mouse key. And then I'm going to make another somewhat parallel line next to it. If I wanted to copy that line, then I could using the same copy or move tool, but toggle the copy on this time. But I don't, so I'm just going to right click and leave it be. So there's my pathway there. I recommend if you want to fill this in with some kind of pattern, like a brick pattern or a stone pattern, that you go ahead and you add some additional lines to close off that, that shape. It'll be easier to manipulate that shape that way. So I'm just going to hover over these until I see the word intersection, and now there's a closed line there. I'm going to right click to remove my web, and then make another line to close off the shape on the other side. Now what I can do is if I want to fill this with flagstone, for example, or a brick, I can use this cool tool called Hatch, insert Hatch. And what I'll do is I'll select one of these options here. There's lots to choose from. Okay, bark mulch, different types of brick, pavers, ground cover, tiles, river stone, pea gravel, etc. but I want a flagstone. I like that. I think it's a nice natural looking type of stone. So I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to select my shape. You need to select every line, oop, not that one, every line that makes up that shape. I don't want this entire line, so I'm going to click escape and zoom in a little bit so I can see that line that I want to select a bit clearer here. Select, I did it again. I'm sure there's an easy way to deselect, but I don't know it quite yet. There it goes. Okay. Now we need to select the other side. That one right there. Okay. I'm going to zoom back out just a little bit, and I'm going to right click somewhere in the shape. And now I have my flagstone. Pretty, right? If I wanted to scale that a bit differently, say I wanted the flagstone to look a lot smaller or have even bigger flagstone that is to scale, then I can manipulate that here. Okay. Now, if I wanted to do something curved, we could do that with our polyline. Oop, I lost my place here. We're going to come this direction again. I want to raise bed maybe right here. So we're going to use this tool here. It's called a polyline. And you're going to check smooth polyline. And that's going to be the easiest way for you to create some sort of smooth shape. So you'll hit left click wherever you want it to start. And you can just kind of start messing with it a little bit. And make whatever shape that you're trying to go with. Okay, I know that's not perfect. I can hit close polyline just to make sure that polyline stays closed. And now if I wanted to hatch that, I could do so as well. Okay, so maybe I want bark mulch in there. Now I have bark mulch in my raised bed. And then on top of that, I could add something like my standing statue. Okay, so this is Emily. Maybe I want her to be in this section of my raised bed. And of course, we want her to face the wind, which is coming from that general area. And I want her to be a normal scale. So I'm just going to come down here and type 1. So that should set her at a normal scale. Click left one more time and then right. And there she is. Now, the reason she's not a different color is because I haven't selected a new layer. So you know what? I'm going to do that just because I want to see her just a bit better. It doesn't matter, again, too much in the end. But I'm going to come back here. I'm going to select a different layer. Let's see. We'll call her I don't know, temp. We'll just call her temp. Go back to figures. Have her standing. Situate her there. Face the wind. Scale of 1. And now she should be a different color. Well, slightly. Barely. But we know she's there. And if you wanted to ignore the bark mulch and just say that you're going to put bark mulch there, that's fine, just to try and keep it a little less busy. I'm okay with that. Anyway, now I could go in and also find some annuals or shrubs or anything really that I wanted to put there. Some hostas in front of her, right? Maybe in a little circle. I want to be all the way around. Then maybe I wanted something else. Maybe something else in front of her or something taller behind her, right? So maybe I want some shrubs that are going to be a bit taller, maybe behind her or something. something like that. Okay, again, I'm not putting a lot of thought into this design. This is just for demonstration's sake. But that's how you could start messing with some of these things. And again, you can move your key. I'm going to hit escape to get this off my crosshair. You could move any of these objects by selecting the move tool and selecting what object that you want to move. And it's going to think I'm selecting the bark mulch, of course. Let's do a hosta. It's angry. That's why I generally don't recommend bark mulch, or make sure you have things in place the way you want them. Whatever, that's fine. Now we can right click, left click. Right click, left click, and then move whatever object you want to move. Okay, that goes for anything. Okay, if you want to know the scale of something, you don't know how long something is or how much area is in a certain portion of your landscape, you can use these tools right here in your edit bar. So this tool here will actually tell you the square width of something. So if I wanted to know the square width of, say, this area here, you just keep left clicking until you make the shape that you want, and it'll tell you here at the very bottom in this little white drop box the square footage. So according to the scale, it is 3,523 square feet in that area that I selected. Now, if I want to measure the distance between 2 points, I could use this tool here, this third one. Oh, it just got dark in here. Let's see if I can move around really quick. There we go, I'm back. If I wanted to measure how long this pathway was, so I know how much stone to put in my budget, I could just measure that from one end to another, and it's 22 feet long on one edge. Now you could do the area of that pathway as well, probably to get a more accurate determination of how much stone to get, but you get the gist. Okay. So I'm going to escape there. You can also do different types of shapes. If you wanted to do a circle, you could do a circle. If you wanted to do a square for some sort of patio, you could do a square. And you could hatch those too if you wanted. Okay. Now for the most important part, text. Okay, we really need you to label everything that you're adding to this design, or we don't know what exactly you're adding. So you're going to go back to the Dynascape tab on the very left-hand side of your menu, and you're going to hit this button here under Commands and Modes called Insert Text with a Leader. And this box should pop up. Okay, you're going to go to Edit, and you're going to type in whatever species that you have selected that you are wanting to label. So say I have an Eastern redbud, as you're blooming right now. My caps lock was on. Still on. And typically you want to say how tall something is so we get an idea of how big it's going to get. So let's say it's going to be 15 feet. I'm going to hit apply. I'm then going to go to text, and this is telling me the width of my font of my actual text. I want that to be bigger. 2 feet on this scale is way too small. So we're going to make it 7 feet. And now I'm going to hit X, and I'm going to select whatever new item that I'm trying to design, preferably right in the middle. So I just click the center of that, and there's my text. Obviously, this looks huge, but when you zoom out, that looks like a good size that is going to fit on your poster really nicely. You're just going to left and then right click, and there you go. There's your text. If you have a group of many of the same type of plant, you can just label it once, and in the parentheses tell me how many plants are in that group. So instead of telling me how tall it is, say parentheses 10, if you're dealing with daffodils or tulips or any other small annual that you want to plant in a group, tell me how many there are. Okay. You can do the same thing with labeling hardscaping features. So my fountain, for example, we're going to go back to text leader. I'll just go ahead and add my scale correctly here. And then I'll put fountain. I don't remember how big it said the fountain was, but we'll just say it's I'll just say it's 8 feet. I'm not totally sure, but you would be able to check that pretty quickly. Hit apply, and then go ahead and label that fountain. Okay, there it is. And so you'll need to label all of your new features, your hardscaping features, your pathways. How long your pathways are would be nice, or your square footage of those pathways, if you can. Plaques, all your plant materials, your trees, your shrubs, everything needs to have a label. But again, if they're in groups, you can just label it once and tell me how many there are. If you want to make a key, for example, if you just want to give these a symbol because you think it's too much text, then you don't have enough room, you could easily go to, again, the text leader and say we have a rose bush. We're going to just make that symbol RO. And then if you go to text, scale that up to 7 feet because we want to see it. And I just remembered I didn't hit apply, so let me hit apply. X, and then go ahead and label that RO. Now, what you're going to do, because I don't know what RO means, you're going to create a key, and you're going to do that using quick text, which is this button here, the T with the Q by it. Once you hit T and Q, you're going to hit this big A over here that says insert text. And then you can type in the title of your key. You could put planting plan legend. Again, we want to scale up the font and hit apply. And there it is. You just left-hand click it in. And then you can go back into that same text box and say that RO stands for your knockout rose variety. Whatever variety or species that you picked, you would put that there, okay? And then again, you should apply and you can just stick that underneath. If you want it to be a little bit smaller than the title, then we could just make the width a little bit smaller. We can make it 5 feet instead, okay? That way it's a bit more proportional there. And you could just keep doing it like that. If you wanted to make it look more like a table, you could add some lines, just regular lines to make it look like a table. That's fine too. Okay. What else? You can delete all of these notes over here if you'd like. So again, you're just going to delete anything. You can just select it, either individually left-hand click or select it in a selection box, and then hit this little recycling bin up in the corner. So again, I don't need these notes here, delete. And really, I don't even like these lines being here because they make it look a little messy. So I'm just going to select all of these because I don't need them. I think they're kind of ugly personally. So we're just going to select all of those, delete, select, delete, select, select, delete. You don't have to do that, but it makes it look just a little bit cleaner. Like we have some very tiny little dots over here. We'll get rid of 2. And it still looks a little crooked to me, so I'm just going to go ahead and rotate this ever so slightly. Ooh. I'm just going to ever so slightly to the left. It's going to lag for a second, so give it just a moment. But now I have a little bit more room to make a legend. You're definitely going to need a compass and your scale. So to find a compass, you go to figures. And then you're going to select T block axis 6. And there's lots of options here. Or you can go to T block axis 6B as well. And there's some pretty ones there too. The compasses are a little small, so I'm going to scale it to ×3 of the size. I'll just kind of put it up in the corner here. North is pointing that way. We're going to make sure it's pointing the correct direction. And then for your scale, you can just use quick text to tell me the scale. I'm going to delete these really quick because they're already getting on my nerves. You're just going to go back to your Dynascape tab, hit quick text, click your A, and then you'll say that your scale is 1 inch equals 16 feet. Okay, and you're gonna want to scale it up a little bit. So I'll do 8 feet. Hit apply, and there's your scale. You can just set it wherever you want that we can see. Okay. And like I said, you'll need to include your hardscaping features as labels on here. Again, if you want to do a symbol, that's fine, but you need a legend if you're doing a symbol. Then all your individual plants. All right, that covers the basics. That covers the basics. And that's all you need for this project. Hopefully this is kind of a cool project for you guys. I know not all of you are going to be designers someday, but a lot of you guys are in comms of some kind. And this is very similar to Photoshop and some of the other software they use. Engineers use this constantly. It's very similar to the AutoCAD program. So this is a good way to just kind of start flexing that muscle for some of y'all. Let me know if you have any questions. I realize I never gave you guys my number. I believe my number is in the syllabus, but if it's not, it's 817-905-7441. If you're having some serious issues, give me a call. Don't abuse that I gave you my number, but I'm happy to help over the phone in any way I can. Yeah, I'm very excited to see the results. Whenever you guys are done, make sure you're saving this throughout. You'll hit save as and save as a drawing, okay, and then save that to your OneDrive. And then you can't all work on it at the same time, so you'll have to just keep sending each other the updated versions. Whenever I'm done, I'm going to save it as an Adobe PDF, actually. And when I save it as an Adobe PDF, it's going to pop up this box. Save it with maximum output quality, because this is printing out on a poster. We want really, really clear objects here. And then hit OK. We're going to print it as a monochrome landscape 24 by 36 piece of paper. Hit OK, and it should save. Okay. It won't pop up automatically, or at least it hasn't been for me. So you can go to your downloads and click through most recently downloaded PDF, and it should give you a nice little preview of what you're sending me. This needs to be sent to me Monday at the latest if you are a Thursday lab, and Friday at the latest if you are a Tuesday lab. Okay, and this is what I need from you. Is your completed PDF in maximum output quality. I will send this to the print shop, and I will have your posters ready for your presentations next week. Don't forget your portfolios need to include your schematic. There need to be 3 copies of your portfolio. Schematic, site plan, plant selection pages. You can get all that information from the plant selectors that I posted on WT class. Your hardscaping features, so just pictures of what kinds of hardscapes that you added to your plan so I can visualize it. And then your budget as well. I need your budget in some sort of Excel or spreadsheet. That way we know that you stayed within the $250,000 budget. Okay, I'm really excited. Your final planting plan doesn't need to go in the portfolio because it is the poster. If you wanted to just print out the PDF and include it, I'm sure Shauna would love that. For the purposes of my grading, I won't need it. But if you really want Shauna to consider your drawing, I recommend having some sort of digestible way for her to take that back to her office. So a printed out PDF version, just to slip it in, monochrome obviously is fine, would be great if you could. Let me know again if you have any questions about the assignment at all. If you need portfolios like binders to put your papers in or folders, there's a bunch in AGS 306. Just go ahead and reuse those. Just take the old ones out and use those yourselves instead of buying new ones. So, okay. Y'all have a good weekend, okay? See y'all.